If you clicked on this video because of the title, I assure you, you're in for a good story. So I'm going to bring you back a couple of years ago to when I was a study abroad student in Bolivia. I was traveling all over the country, me and 17 other gals, and I was studying the Bolivian indigenous worldview. And as a part of that, I got to go and visit all these different indigenous groups that didn't speak Spanish. They spoke their own languages, and I would get to live their traditional lifestyle with them for a little bit and just try to understand as much as I could what their worldview looked like. And that was my point of study, and it was really fascinating. And we've already talked about being on the highest saltwater lake in the world with an indigenous host day family, but today's episode takes place in the Amazon rainforest. And so I end up going to the Amazon rainforest with the whole crew, and I meet my host day family. They seemed really nice, although we couldn't really communicate. And it was just so cool to be in the Amazon rainforest, the lungs of the world. I knew where I was, and everything was so exotic. And if I'm being honest, if you think about the Amazon rainforest, you kind of think about everything being bigger. And that was totally the case with all of the wildlife that was there. All of the leaves, the flowers, the plants were bigger. And even more importantly for me, all of the insects and the critters and the animals and that sort of thing were much bigger as well. And a really cool thing about this weekend that I spent with this family in particular was that I ended up sleeping in a hammock. You know, as we've been talking about in these videos, a lot of places where indigenous people live in Bolivia is really not that developed. So nothing like heat or anything like that. No grocery stores around. All the food you end up getting by yourself. And it's super hot in the Amazon rainforest, understandably, and very buggy. And so I spent every single night sleeping in a hammock, which is something I'd never done before. You know, I've read a book in a hammock, or I've taken maybe a nap in a hammock, or just gotten some shut-eye, but I've never slept and had like, okay, it's time for bed, I'm gonna hop into the hammock and that sort of thing. And so that's what I would end up doing. And I do just want to share real quick one really cool thing. Like, we harvested bananas when we were there, and I herded animals and chopped down trees, and we even had me and the whole group of gals, we had a nude swimming party and all that sort of stuff. Very fun, tons of stories. If you ever want to hear more of them, please do consider leaving a comment and letting me know. And thanks so much for taking a look at this small channel here. But in this hammock, that was my bed every single night. Since it was so buggy, you ended up having the hammock kind of hang from the ceiling, and then you had a bug mat that you would cover on the top side over the hammock. And then in order to make sure that no bugs got into your hammock during the night, because they could get in, as we're about to talk about, you would take the bug net and you would kind of sleep on top of it. So the bug net would be hanging from the ceiling, coming down to you, kind of covering you, and then you would sit down on it, just like if you were playing the parachute game when you were a kid. You know, keep that parachute up, you got to sit down, make sure that nothing can get in or out. It's the same idea, except for with a bug net. And so I think it was the second night that I was there, and I go to sleep, and I wake up in the morning, and I instantly scream, a death scream. I'm not going to do it on the microphone to keep the vibe for the video and whatnot, but a blood-curdling, like a movie theater sort of scream. And the reason for it is because although I had, slept on top of the bug net, I woke up to a ginormous black hairy tarantula on my arm. And speaking of like fight or flight and that sort of thing, I'm definitely a fight person. Speaking about a recent video about saving a life as a lifeguard, I always hop into gear. I don't freeze up or anything like that. And so when I woke up and there's this tarantula that somehow got underneath, tarantulas are huge. I don't know how a tarantula got underneath the bug net. But I wake up and I instantly, like military roll off of the hammock and, smack down onto the dirt ground. And there was one table outside on this like little awning area where I was sleeping on the hammock for the night, where there was a paper towel. And I was just like so shocked and like scared. And I didn't know anything about tarantulas, and I'd never ever wanted to touch one. If I had the opportunity, if someone was like, "Hey, you want to pick up this tarantula?" The answer is no. I do not like spiders, and I used to have nightmares of spiders after watching the first Harry Potter movie when I was a kid. So, no, big spiders are not my thing. And so I get the paper towels and I'm just looking at it, and it's big. Oh my gosh. And so I used to have a video of it too on my phone because I wanted to make sure that I could remember and have footage of this experience forever, but I lost the video somehow. But I take the paper towel and I rip some off, and I go to pick up the tarantula who's, next to all of my stuff, and I just need to get him away. I pick him up on the bum with 2 fingers with the paper towel in the way that you would with like a normal spider in the bathroom, a normal small one and that sort of thing. But although, when you're taking the paper towel with a small spider, you get that feeling of like, oh wow, like, I'm much more dominant, and I don't like it, but I can get rid of it, and like I'm the dominant force here and that sort of thing. But I go and I pick up this tarantula, and it is so big, like it's the sort of thing where I would feel like if I was to squish it, like you might with a different spider. I'm not that sort of person, but like if you were to squish the spider with a normal spider, it's, again, that dominance and that sort of thing. If I was to squish the tarantula and just kill it, it would have been too horrifying because it was such an animal. Like the tarantula wasn't an insect. It was so big. It was like such an animal and squirming and trying to get up my arm as I was holding it on the bum. And I thought about, oh my gosh, like, do I just throw it? And I was like, okay, like, muster up the courage right now. You're going to go and you're going to let it go. So I walked over to the edge of the farm area, as many people do in these more traditional rural areas. Their house is also kind of like a farm and that sort of thing. So I moved the spider all the way to the farmland where there were some stalks. I want to say of corn or something. I can't remember exactly what crop it was. And I let it go. And my host stayed dad in the indigenous family, although he spoke Aymara too, he spoke just like a little bit of Spanish, and he communicated. And I don't know if this is true, but it's just this is the really important part of the story for me that stuck out. Because him and we didn't really communicate that much, but he came over to me because he heard the scream in the morning. And I moved quickly, right? But I was taking the video of me letting the spider go, and he watches it, and he has this horrible, horrible look on his face. And he's like, in Spanish, he's like, I haven't seen that specific spider, in a very long time around here. And that's a really dangerous spider. And where we were in the Amazon rainforest, he actually is like, if that thing bit you, it would kill you. And so that's why I say I almost died in the Amazon rainforest. I don't know that's true, but he didn't say much to me, and that was one of the only things that he did say. And so if, it probably would have been fine if I had been bitten and then gone to a hospital, but where we were located in particular, the nearest hospital was 24 hours drive away. So if I had been bitten, and if it was just as dangerous as he said it was, then I might not be here speaking into the microphone to you all today. So I'm glad to be able to do that. And if you've enjoyed this story, please do consider subscribing for more, because I have tons more just like this, and I've really been enjoying sharing them all with you all. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thanks again for checking this channel out.